All right, so in this one we're going to look at dividing mixed numbers. Now when we're dividing mixed numbers, the process is actually really similar to what we did with multiplying mixed numbers. So if I was to start off with something like 2 and 4/5 divided by 1 and 1/6, the first thing I would need to do is get rid of those mixed numbers. So when we divide mixed numbers, we actually don't really want to deal with the mixed numbers at all. So I'm going to get rid of those mixed numbers. So 2 and 4/5, the way I would do that is I take the whole number, multiply by the denominator. So remember that's going to give me a 2 times 5 plus that numerator of 4. And I'm going to divide by 5, the denominator stays the same. 2 times 5, that gives me 10 plus 4 is 14. So I have now 14 over 5. And my second one here, I've got 1 and 1/6. So same idea. I'm going to take that 1 times the denominator of 6, so it's 1 times 6, plus the one that's up top already, and the denominator will remain a 6. 1 times 6 is 6, plus 1 gives me 7. Okay, so I've now changed my 2 and 4/5 into 14 over 5, and the 1 and 1/6 is 7 over 6, and I'm still dividing. So notice that I'm still dividing. I haven't done anything yet with that. Now, from our last video, the process for dividing fractions is we don't actually divide. We are going to multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to write this as 14 over 5. So that first fraction stays the same, but instead of dividing, I want to multiply. So I'm going to multiply instead of divide. And since I've done that, I need to take the reciprocal of that second fraction, which means I need to flip that fraction upside down. So instead of being 7 over 6, we're going to now write it as 6 over 7. Okay. Now that we're multiplying, we can cross reduce. So 5 and 6 have no common factors, but 14 and 7 both have a common factor of 7. 14 divided by 7 is 2, and 7 divided by 7 is 1. And so we're left with now, we've got 2 times 6 over top of 5 times 1, and that gives us 12 over 5. Now this is improper, so remember, change any improper fractions into mixed numbers. 5 can go into 12 2 full times, because 2 times 5 is 10. And since we take that 10 away, there are 2 pieces still remaining. So we get 2 and 2/5 as our final answer. Okay, let's do another one here. We'll change it up a little bit. So let's go 5 divided by 3 and 4/7. Okay, now what do you do if you have a whole number? If we've got a whole number, so I just have that 5 here. What I would do, you can do this anytime you have a whole number, is you can simply put it as 5 over 1. So anytime you have a whole number, if it will help you, you are allowed to write it as over 1. Now I still don't like this mixed number, so I'm going to change that mixed number into its improper fraction equivalent. So I'm going to take that 3 times 7 and then add the 4 that's already in the numerator, and the denominator will remain a 7. 3 times 7 is 21, plus 4 gives me 25. So I'm now working with 25 over 7. And I'm going to rewrite this and have it as 5 over 1 divided by 25 over 7. Well, that's the same thing as, instead of dividing, I would like to multiply instead of dividing. And that means I now need to take the reciprocal of my second fraction. So I'm going to flip that second fraction upside down. And now I'm going to look for any cross-reducing that I can do. 1 and 7, no cross-reducing, but 5 and 25 both have a common factor of 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 25 divided by 5 gives me 5. And now I'm left with 1 times 7, which is 7, and 1 times 5, which is 5. And 7 over 5 is my improper fraction. 5 fits into 7 one full time, and there are 2 pieces left over. So there's my final answer. Okay, one more, and then I'll let you be for this week. So we've got 4 and 1 over 5 divided by 5 and 3 over 5. Okay, so same idea. I'm going to change each of these from mixed to improper. So pause your video, do that really quickly, see how you do. I'm assuming your video was paused and you came up with 21 over 5 divided by 28 over 5. And if you didn't pause your video, stop embarrassing me. It's really mean. Now, I'm going to keep that first fraction the same, so I've got 21 over 5, but instead of dividing, I would like to multiply. So I'm going to multiply instead of divide. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my second fraction and flip it upside down and take its reciprocal. Okay? So now I have 21 over 5 times 5 over 28. Cross-reducing here, 5 and 5, those are the same number. That's handy. If it's the same number, they just become ones, right? Because 5 divided by 5 is 1 in the denominator, and then the 5 divided by 5 in the numerator is also 1. 21 and 28, they have a common factor of 7. 21 divided by 7 is 3, and 28 divided by 7 is 4. So I'm left with 3 times 1, which is 3, and 1 times 4, which is 4. There we go, we get 3/4 as our final answer. Now, if you had to do something like estimate this, really what I can do here is I could say 4 divided by 5. That means I'm taking a 4 and dividing by something that's bigger than 4. I would estimate this as somewhere slightly less than 1, because I'm taking a smaller number and dividing by a bigger number. So I'm going to get something that's a little bit less than 1. For this one, I started off, I had 5 divided by 3. So if I was to estimate that, I've got something bigger divided by something smaller. I'm probably going to be a little bit bigger than 1, and that's really all you need to be doing for your estimating. 2 divided by 1, oh, that works out. My answer should be close to 2. So if you have to do any estimating, all you're really doing is just getting in the ballpark. You don't need to be that exact. Say what your answer should be somewhat close to. And is 3/4 pretty close to 1? Certainly. That's reasonable. It's close enough. Okay? All right, there we go. That's dividing mixed numbers. Pretty easy.